Unapologetically Gangster, the Don Kawand story. Book 1, Story 4, subtitle, Marlboro and Coney Island. Now, I wasn't always a bad kid, but in 1979, in my first year in Marlboro, my heart was tested almost immediately. There's always been something treacherous inside of me. As a young boy, I didn't know how to control it, and that's being fearless, a #1 trait in a certified gangster. I had multiple fights and problems in the summer of 1979 with several kids. They lived in a 16-story skyscraper that sat across from the 7-story high building that Mama Love moved us in. Building 2, aka 30 Rock, had a handful of young troublemakers. The kids in this building would bring out a monster inside my belly that could not be stopped. The young boys in the building were the hardest in the projects, and not only did I have beef with most of them, but became extremely close to the most dangerous ones. I would eventually run everything moving in and out of it, making it famous, only because major celebrities in the entertainment world would film movies and videos around 30 Rock. Denzel Washington and Russell Crowe in American Gangster, Tupac and Jim Belushi, as well as Wycliffe from the Fugees, just to name a few, have immortalized 30 Rock on camera. Could be a coincidence, but out of 28 buildings, they chose 30 Rock. Cardi B has even filmed a video inside the lobby of 30 Rock with the son of one of my loyal partners on her hip. Coincidence, you say? Maybe or maybe not, and neither will you by the time you finish listening to the Don Kawand story. But anyway, I had encountered some rough young boys that didn't mind a good fight. Now, not everybody in the building was about that life, but most were. Out of 16 floors, there were at least 2 or 3 tough kids on every floor, and some floors had 2 or 3 families where the siblings moved as one. For example, I got jumped by some identical twins from the 11th floor. Those that witness can testify I handled myself pretty well, considering it was 2 of them. Tough little kids at the time, but honestly, I was getting at one when their father pushed the other one into the melee. I must have been ahead of the game, because eventually their pops intervened, tossing me to the ground and allowing the twins to get off on me. It was a sucker move that had me return with my Uncle Harold and one of his friends. My uncle and his partner marched me straight to the 11th floor with tears in my eyes. They checked the twins' father for getting involved. This taught me that if I ever had a problem with someone, to bring it to their doorstep. Shortly after, I would gain another stripe under my belt. It will be an altercation with a group of troublemakers that led to a fist fight with another kid from 30 Rock. And believe it or not, another set of identical twins. Hell yeah, in the same building. Anyhow, this set of twins was much older and lived on the 14th floor. They ran with a group of misfits from the building that called themselves the Ski Crew. It was about 10 or 15 older boys in the crew, but one summer day while playing Skelly with a couple of kids in front of 30 Rock, the Ski Crew bum rushes us. They came around one of the buildings throwing itchy balls, some fuzzy and sticky round balls that fell off the trees back in the days. Anyway, someone screamed, "Run!" My feet get to moving quickly through 30 Rock, which has an entrance to the front of the building and one in the back. After moving swiftly through the lobby, there was a brief chase. I sprinted to the other side of the projects with these boys fast on my heels. Being the new kid in the hood, I ran because one of the kids playing Skelly screamed run. And you already know that if someone yells run in the hood, you get to stepping. No questions asked. As I crossed West 11th Street, a 2-way street that separated the projects, something inside of me questioned, what the fuck are you running for? Something that can't be explained made me stop and confront these bad boys. When I turned around, one of the twins, a tall, skinny, light-skinned kid, was right behind me. There must have been about 5 or 6 others coming up in the rear when I warned him, but he threw one at me anyway. He gently tossed it at me and it bounced off my chest, just to keep it short and sweet. This boy played my bluff and I bum rushed him. It was quick. I ran at him like a maniac, picked him up off his feet, and body slammed him to the ground. The fight was on and popping before the boys in his crew broke it up. When he got up off the ground, he had dirt on his face and was squinting in pain. He was in too much pain to continue, but threatened to get at me on another date, but it never happened. Instead, I became the new kid on the block that stood up to the Ski Crew. They could have jumped me, but they didn't, and I never even considered it. They allowed the fair fight to take place, and I held my own. We made peace the following day and became good friends. I began to hang out with them at the crib and with the other kids in the ski crew. We played football, basketball, and rode our huffy dirt bikes together for the rest of the summer. But once in school, I had to face another young troublemaker that lived in Building 11, which is right behind 30 Rock. This is the end of Story 4, the Don Kawand story. Stay tuned for Story 5. Unapologetically Gangster, the Don Kawand story. Book 1, Story 5. Subtitle, Marlboro and Coney Island. The fall not only brought cold weather, but the start of school. First time attending school in the area came with more challenges. Yes, the school bully. Most of the kids that lived on my side of the projects attended PS 248, which was right across the street from the projects. I started off in the 5th grade, but one day while in music class, a kid with brown eyes named Wayne, aka Light, tapped me on the shoulder, and when I turned around, he had his head down on his desk, as if he had not touched me at all. A few minutes had gone by, and this troubled boy that I didn't even know tapped me again. This time after spinning around, I whispered, "Yo, stop tapping me."
Yo, what you gonna do about it?
He slick talked me. I just turned back to the front of the classroom with hopes that he didn't do it again. But he did. And when he did, within one motion I turned and jumped across the front of his desk. A football tackle. We were tussling hard all over the floor. It was a lot of furniture moving that day before the teacher broke up the fight. Wayne was mad as hell, and just like a young bully, he threatened to kick my ass after school, but I skipped out early and decided to deal with the young boy the next day. The boy stalked me for 2 days, real talk, but never came close. Okay, I'd be lying if I tell you I wasn't a little concerned, but the boy had fire in his eyes. So this is how it went down. I get up early the next morning. I grab a steak knife out the kitchen drawer, put it in my book bag, and on the way to school, I stash it in Shady Park in an abandoned building, which is right across the street from the school. Now all day in school, a young boy is mean mugging me and making gestures with his hands. So at 3 o'clock when the bell rung, I made sure to step out of the school before he did. I seen him skipping behind me as I made my way to the park where the knife was hidden. By the time he caught up with me, I had already pulled out the steak knife and backed him down. But to be honest, the second day, he tried to outsmart me. When I came out of school, he was already in Shady Park looking for the steak knife. But I had hid the steak knife a little closer to the school this time. It was stashed behind a tree, and the look on his face was priceless. I was one step ahead of the young boy. He went to run up on me with his knuckles up, but I had already retrieved the steak knife and was ready for the battle. That's when he knew, and it was going to be blood before he put hands on me. But the following day, we made peace and became cool. We'd go back to back with the white racist kids after school. As teenagers, we also did some things that I'd rather not reveal at this moment. But after school and at home, a poisonous stew was brewing. A monster would interrupt the school year and have Mama Love and me on the run for our lives. This is the end of Story 5, the Don Kawand story. Stay tuned for Story 6. Unapologetically Gangster, the Don Kawand story. Book 1, Story 6. Subtitle, Marlboro and Coney Island. As a young boy, I was doing my best to adjust to a new neighborhood and rough kids. But behind closed doors, Mama Love and I were living with a monster. She had been dating this guy from Brownsville, Langston Hughes Housing to be exact. This dude was an arrogant and abusive man that terrorized us. Halfway through the 5th grade, he began to violently put hands on Mama Love and eventually me. I remember waking up in the middle of the night to Mom screaming and yelling before running past my bedroom and out of the crib. The dude was right behind her, and moments later she'd returned with the police. The incident had me confused and frightened. A helpless feeling overwhelmed my young soul. That night I prayed for the evil man to never return. The next day brought tears to my eyes after seeing Mama Love's pretty face, black and blue. She had to wear dark shades for a couple of days. I remember hearing her on the phone telling someone how she accidentally bumped her head on the nightstand, but it was a lie. She was either frightened or ashamed, only because those were the feelings that consumed my thoughts. I was only 10 years old, a small, fragile young boy growing bitter with life, a kid that didn't understand the power of love, when only a few days later, he was back. Moms moved through the crib on eggshells, and at this point she made me ask for his permission for everything. Most of the time he said no, so I eventually stopped asking. I just grew angrier and angrier with my mother and father, who was MIA. Where was he, I questioned. I believe this is when the hate for my real pops began to fester in my belly. Only because things got so bad. Halfway through the school year, Moms took me out of school. We moved into someone's basement on East 92nd Street for a short time. We had no choice after this maniac came to the school one day and kidnapped me. Thinking about it creates a lump in my throat and bring water to my eyes even years later. But one night they had a bad fight. Mama Love got gangster. When I stepped into the hallway, she was talking to him through the door with the chain on it. He had placed his hand in between the cracked door and was trying to push his way in. Mama Love got gangster and was slamming his fingers with a hammer while attempting to close the door. My young eyes watched in horror. The fear on her face as she struggled to keep him out had me shaken, frozen but fully aware of the danger we were in. She eventually got the door closed, but the loud banging from him kicking on the door continued. It only lasted a few minutes. The police finally showed up, and when they left, it was impossible to sleep, because only God knew what was next. This is the end of story 6, the Don Kawand story, the realest life story ever told. If you know someone who's been in an abusive relationship, click like and share, because somebody needs to hear this.